broad group from around, as we gather a broad group from around the country to hear from Kay and Olivia, the old goat and the young goat tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Doug Mitchell. I have the privilege of serving as the executive director of the Conservancy. And while we're getting this large group together, I want to introduce you to our Conservancy team. Sean O'Leary, Amy Luck, Grace Kinsler, and Jill Bridgman are with me tonight to help moderate this crew. And we're also joined, we have the great privilege tonight to be joined by the CEO of Climate Ride, Kaylee Quinn. And Kaylee, thank you for taking some time out of what I know is an awfully busy schedule to be with us. You know, Kaylee and Climate Ride hold events all around the world and treat us very specially here in Glacier country, where they direct specifically the proceeds of Climate Ride to our work at the Glacier Conservancy, and we're forever grateful for that, Kaylee and your whole team. So thank you for being with us. I am really delighted tonight, and many of you who are local, and we'll put a link to it in the chat, will have seen today's Daily Interlake. So we are joined by celebrities today. The front page of the Interlake had a wonderful article, grandmother and granddaughter hike for a cause in Glacier Park. And Kay and Olivia are joining us from the Seattle area. Thank you guys for being willing to be in conversation with a whole bunch of others who are really anxious to hear about how you pulled off this incredible trip together.
I think that we've been hiking together for a number of years. Since Olivia was 3, we started. And when this opportunity came up to connect with a good cause, we decided that we would pursue this, and we're fortunate to have enough friends and supporters to make it possible for us to join the group and raise some money for the Conservancy. And we just are appreciative. You know, Glacier Park has always held a special place in my heart because I grew up in Whitefish, and every year my family would spend time traveling through the park. And then as I got older, much older, would hike with my husband, and we explored all the trails. And so it was nice to come back and to have the support that Climate Ride provided, so that we didn't have to carry our own tents and such. So,
well, Kay, thank you. That's a great introduction to kind of our evening together tonight. Olivia, so your grandma pulls you aside. You're 3 years old. She tells you you're going to go on a hike. Kind of, what was your first? Did you think that sounded like a good idea or a terrible idea?
I mean, we've gone on hikes before. Why would it be a bad idea?
So you guys did a lot of training for this, though, together, even during COVID.
Yep.
So Olivia, tell me how that worked. When did you get together? How did you decide where to go? And did you do that in local hikes?
A hike that we did a lot. I can't remember where it was, but it was near one of the other castle parks castle-like parks, and it was
a local park.
And so you try and go out maybe once a week, something like that?
Yeah, because school schedule.
Right, because I think, Kay, you're probably out of school, but Olivia hasn't quite gotten there yet. So Olivia, I know that climate issues are important to you. Kind of talk to us a little bit as a 6th grader. You know, you're the generation who we old people have to kind of rely on to inspire us to do things, and who are going to be picking up the mantle of leadership. So at your age, tell us a little bit about your feelings about the issue and how you came to wanting to do something about it in such a meaningful way.
Well, I wanted to do this because, for one, we need nature to survive, and also nature is pretty. And I mean, did we really have to find out that climate change was happening so late in this and have to deal with it this late? Because did people not care about nature?
Yeah, it seems like an obvious question, but you know, it's a good one, right? And how do we do how do we care? But then you've taken it the next step though, Olivia, which is you cared, but you also did something about it, right? Raising the amount of money you guys raised, and remind everybody about in the neighborhood of how much money that is.
I mean, it was like close family talked to their friends about it, and then those friends talked to their other friends, and then kept going, and then people were just donating to the pages.
And so how much do you
About
remember?
over 4,000.
No, each of us
Yeah.
raised over $4,000.
Yeah, I mean that's
A total of $9,000.
I mean, let's think about that as a group, right? I mean, that is such an amazing contribution. We will do entire projects next year in the park. We will be able to open the first handicap accessible wilderness campground in Glacier National Park. And the amount of money that you raised, that dollar amount, would have covered the entire expense of that entire project, right? Think about that. Think about the impact that something like that, what you did, this is not any small deal. And so you know, you're doing more than just, Olivia, you're doing more than just caring that nature matters, right? And your statement's super powerful. I wrote it down. We need nature to survive, right? That simple statement is very powerful. So talk to me a little bit about how
Before you go on, I have to tell you, my aunt, who is very close to me, had spastic paralysis, and it was such a treat a number of years ago to be able to take her on the Trail of the Cedars at Avalanche, because when I was growing up, there were no provisions in the park for handicapped people. And so to think that you can use the funds that we raise to expand opportunities for handicapped people, that really means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Our part is really fun, and you know, again, partners like Kaylee Quinn and Climate Ride, you know, who you know, obviously have a number of riders as well, and you multiply this by 10 or 20, and all of a sudden you're really able to do special things. Another project next year that's on the books that we're doing in partnership with the Christopher Reeve Foundation is a handicap accessible trail on Swift Current Lake at Mini Glacier. I've been on parts of that trail that are already completed, and it's a game changer. And so these are the kinds of things that the park has passion for, park leadership has a passion for, that we're privileged to be able to participate in, but we couldn't do any of it without you. And that's super, super special. So thank you for that. So Kay, you've got a pretty special granddaughter, probably not the only one, but in this particular case, you do a special thing together. How did you decide that you and Olivia were going to have this special connection?
Well, with all of my grandchildren, and I only have 4, I try to take care of them at least one day a week until they start school. So we are able to bond from a very early age. And you know, trying to do things that keep them active. I try to take them out and get some walking or hiking done with all of them. And I think the bond just develops. And with Olivia, it's been nice because she's been agreeable to going on these hikes and accompanying me. The only thing I have to do is at the end of a hike, make sure that she gets some ice cream.
Or a treat.
Okay, well, so we're gonna have to dig deeper into this this very important issue. So Olivia, what's the go-to ice cream, please?
I mean, there's one place that sometimes it really depends on what's closest. I mean, I like Baskin Robbins because,
Because they've got 31 flavors.
Yeah.
I mean, so what's your favorite flavor?
I like the wild berry flavor and the cotton candy one.
Cone or cup?
Both.
Okay, all right, I like it. Indiscriminate ice cream eater. So that's good to know. Treats are always important in our household. And that often happened on the trail. For us, it was Jolly Ranchers. Do you guys have a trail snack that you always have in your packs?
Probably the most consistent thing that we've had are cheese sticks.
Cheese sticks. Cheese sticks.
Okay, we're gonna write that down. That's a must have for sure.
I mean, it's protein in a stick that you can eat while you're walking.
How does it get any better than that? So it's, so we're gonna have to suss some of this out. And I really encourage others to use the chat feature. You'll have better questions than I do, but you know me, I can keep going for some time, but feel free to use the chat feature. Also sending greetings from where you are. We got a greeting from Northwest Ohio already to you folks, people again from across the country who are glacier lovers. So please send some shout outs as well. And we're going to be doing some drawings for some goat gear later on as well. But there's a long distance between hiking together a day a week and hiking is just agreeing to hike as many miles as you agreed to hike together over a short period of time. How did you make that pledge with each other? And did you have any reservations about this is a big deal, maybe we're not going to be able to do it?
I mean, it was kind of questioning because, like, am I going to be able to do all these hikes in a row for that many miles? Yes. Of course.
It was
Of course I can make it.
It was an issue that came up a couple of times to be sure that she was determined, but she's a strong character and she decided that this was something that she could do. And so I tried to build up our strength by planning hikes in preparation that were longer and steeper every time we went out, and do a couple of back-to-back hikes to get used to the extended period of time.
I saw somebody ask best hiking memory from one of those miles. Like one of the
Yeah, what's your best hiking memory from that?
I remember at one of the first hike we did through the lakes, the one where people were jumping off the bridge into the water, and then like the swimming thing, the bubbles were making like this cool pattern that looked really pretty, like this swirly pattern. As the water pushed the bubbles through.
So I'm thinking St. Mary Falls, you think? Does that sound right?
Yeah. I couldn't remember.
Did you jump off the bridge, Olivia?
I tried to. It was too cold.
The water is very, did you, Kay?
Oh, no, not me. you know, there are some things that I've learned not to do.
Like
So-
after hitting her head on while ice skating and never ice skating again.
So you know, Olivia, I'm gonna ask you this question about your grandmother. I mean, your grandmother's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you're 11, right?
Mhm.
Your grandmother's not 11,
81.
right? I mean, right, to think about, I mean, I know we never talk about age, but I think it's in the paper, so I think that's okay. I mean, 81 years young, okay. You know, and you kept up with this one. It's really quite remarkable. How do you do it?
Oh, I think having a pattern of going out and being active, planning some special trips as a carrot so that it meant, and when I say special trips, my husband and I would do some high altitude trekking in various places around the world. And knowing that we had a hike like that planned meant that we had to go into the athletic club to work out every day so that we were fit. And so that kept me going. And I think the exercise, lots of walking. I live in a neighborhood where I can walk around and walk to town a lot. And then eating healthy. I was a home ec major, and so I knew a lot about nutrition. So, you know, a good healthy diet and not in excess and lots of exercise and just to keep doing it and doing it again and again. So
talk to us a little bit about, and there, I'm going to turn it over to Jill here in a minute to go through some questions that are starting to come into the chat, but talk to us a little bit about, my wife and I, Julie and I were talking about this earlier tonight, talking about you guys, because that's all I've been able to talk about all day is my upcoming opportunity to be with you guys. But Julie and I were talking about, so we often will get kind of discouraged on the trail. And when you get discouraged, how did you keep your spirits up or keep each other's spirits up over this week of hiking?
One of the hikes we did, I was, because of how gloomy the forest was and how dark it was, I was like, I do not want to do this. I got tired really fast and we were about to turn around, but like, yeah, no, I want to see the end and see if it's worth it. And once we got out in the open, I was like, yeah, we can do this. Because, you know, it was out in the open and we weren't in the gloomy forest anymore.
Yeah, that really is inspiring, isn't it? And that's, I think, one of the really inspiring things about Glacier is there, in almost every hike, there's a payoff at the end, right? Which hike was that? Do you remember?
It was
the Pagan Pass, I think.
Peak Pass.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. Well, Jill, I know we've got some greetings from all over the country, Rochester, New York, Washington, D.C., right in your neighborhood in Bainbridge Island, just a ferry ride away. So, Jill, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of go through some of the questions.
Yeah, we've got a couple questions for you, Kay and Olivia. Could you start by kind of like walking us through what each day looked like for you? Some people are interested in what hikes you were doing each day.
I mean, I already mentioned the first one, so.
So that was day one, was Pegan Pass. Okay.
Day one was the hike to the three waterfalls along St. Mary's Lake.
Okay.
Which is a fairly easy hike, fairly level. And I always assume when we have our first hike that it's giving the guides a chance to make an assessment of what kind of clientele they're guiding and what our abilities are. And then the second day, I mean, we always started with great breakfast so that if anybody's interested in doing a climate ride or climate hike. They feed you very well and give you lots of an energy boost. And then the second day we were that was when we did the Pegan Pass. And then the third day we did the Grinnell Glacier. And that was probably, I would say that was the more strenuous, more uphill than the other hikes. And then the last day we went to Medicine, and that's an area I have not spent very much time hiking in, so I was really glad to have some exposure there. But by that time, Olivia was a little bit tired, and when we were given a choice of a more strenuous hike or a less intense one, she voted for the less intense. But it had a waterfall at the end, and she likes the waterfalls.
I like the waterfalls. I find waterfalls just randomly there. Kind of pretty.
That's cool. Did you have a favorite hike? Was it the waterfall hike or something different?
Did you hear the question?
No.
Did you have a favorite hike?
I mean, I don't know.
They're all so great, right? It's hard to choose just one.
And
What-
also, if we're talking about how short was the last hike, because it's 3 miles. But also the last hike because it was really pretty.
Yeah.
But I
That's
don't
awesome.
like being out in the sun most of the time because I start sweating really easily.
Yeah.
I also don't like the things that go around your head because the buildup of sweat is really annoying.
Yeah, for sure.
My favorite hike is the Grinnell Glacier. And not only is it the chance to see a glacier in the way that the glacier has created the lake and the fact that it's melting, but when you turn around and you start coming back down, to be able to look, you have a window where you can look out and see the flatland of Montana, Montana. And I think the contrast of being up in the mountains and then seeing that flatland is really fabulous.
Yeah, that's great. Patricia is wondering, what wildlife did you see on your trip? Did you see any animals along the way, or?
I have a list marked off in my head. First off, deer, 4 bears.
Wow.
One of them was just a bear peacefully eating, and the other one was a mom bear and 2 cubs that was like running off into the forest. We saw 2 moose.
Mhm.
2 moose.
One moose that broke out of the trees as we were driving down a gravel road and landed right in front of us and led the way down the road for a while. It was pretty special.
I remember it like looked at us for a second and then ran.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, let me deal with this.
That's really cool. So you saw a lot. That's awesome.
And no mountain goats. We were the only
Really?
ones there. So as we left, we did see some elk running through a field. That was pretty
Cool.
quite a few others, but those were the main that we saw.
Yeah. Awesome. Janet is asking, what was the best thing that you had in your backpack? And then the second part of the question. So the first part is the best thing you brought. And then she's also wondering, is there anything you wish that you had brought? Was there anything that you missed that you wish you would have thrown in your pack?
Best thing I had brought, probably
While you think about that, can I answer?
Yeah.
I think that I've done enough hiking and trekking that my backpack is pretty well equipped. But I think the best investment that I made this year was to buy the white shirts that reflect the sunlight. Because
Mm.
it's so hot. So I'm glad we had that. So probably you would have wanted more food.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can never bring too much food, especially when you're hiking. You work up an appetite, right?
Yeah.
Will you be back in Glacier next summer, or do you have any other plans to go hike in other national parks or do another climate hike? What are your plans for next year?
I don't know, do hikes, and we might just end up making a tradition that every summer we go to Glacier and hike there.
Cool. Well, we fully support that. That sounds like a great plan.
First time I went to Montana was Christmas. I went with my mom and my dad and grandma, and we went skiing at Big Mountain.
Oh, cool. What do you think about that? Was that fun?
Yes, I love side trails because I'm small, so going through the trees is like trees for me.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I was like leading the party, like we go here, we go here, we go here.
Look at you.
I probably didn't remember a lot of it because I can't remember stuff that my brain doesn't find important. And I think the trails in the mountain wasn't important.
Very cool. I have another question for you, Olivia. How would you go about encouraging your friends or other kids your age to get into hiking? Have you encouraged any friends, or do you have any ideas about how you might be able to get friends on board and kind of get them involved in this cause about, raising awareness about climate change and the other issues you had mentioned earlier?
I mean, for one, I could never convince my friend Amelia to go on a hike with me. And it would probably be my friend Elsa, Ruby, and maybe somebody else.
And how would you go about convincing them to join
I probably
us?
wouldn't have to convince Elsa because Elsa loves hiking.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, maybe my friend Ruby because we went on a bike ride together, so probably would be up for a hike that's shorter, or at least about as long as that bike ride. Which the bike ride had to be the thing that. Oh my god, the thing that definitely was the hardest because many more steps and some of it was uphill. So
Sure. Yeah. So it sounds like some friends might be on board just from you being so inspiring and doing this, and you're kind of just leading by example. I think that's really cool.
I think this whole thing is amazing, and I know also that it needed some scaffolding to be able to be made happen, and that that takes us back to Climate Ride and Kaylee. First of all, I really want a popsicle. Second of all, second of all, thank you again for the amazing support you provide. And this has to have been kind of one of the feel-good stories for you of 2021, right?
Well, indeed. I mean, having an amazing grandmother, which with such deep roots in whitefish. I mean, this is something you never hear about. Be a part of our ride with her granddaughter, who bonded a lot with my daughter, who came on the hike as well, who was asking to be invited, by Olivia on any adventures in the future. But Kay, I want to go back to your interest in accessibility in the park. I don't know if you and I ever talked about this because we talked a lot. My uncle, my dad's brother, became a quadriplegic at 20 years old, and he was never able to come to my basketball games or or go to the parks or do these things that mean so much. And so to see the Conservancy working on accessibility in a place like Swift Current, which is such a short way to extraordinary beauty, I see accessibility as a big part of people with disabilities engaging in caring about planetary issues. We have several people with disabilities who do our rides and hikes, and we are there to support them 110%. So Kay, your passion, the Conservancy's passion, I am 110% in support. You can have another popsicle, yes. And so I also want to say, Kay, you know, a lot of us, I'm becoming middle-aged now, and I think about my future. And the example that you set for everyone on that hike is extraordinary. And that idea of, I remember you and I talked about, COVID had really delayed your training plans for climate hike, right? And you got out there, you started at a half a mile and a half on your daily walk. You've got a somewhat of a hill near where you live, but you never gave up. And that reminded me, so many of us, you know, we're encounter obstacles and we give up. And just, if you can take it at a quarter mile or a half mile at a time, it's a life changer. And the fact that you did that after a year of having your training delayed and then came to Glacier and accomplished so much, was, I'm gonna cry. I so loved hanging out with you. And the fact that we had a couple beers in the evening was so fun. So I forget, what was your favorite beer? It was, I think it was
Yes.
Moostrel, yes. So, and I do want to touch on as well, and I'll please send it back to you and the Conservancy, is the multi-generational aspect of engaging in Glacier National Park. Bringing your grandkids, this is the absolute most important thing everyone on this call can do, is take your grandkid into a park and give them the opportunity to experience what Olivia experienced, and my daughter and Olivia together, which one of these people fell off a waterfall, if you might recall, causing me deep trauma, but not always dangerous. But there are moments where these opportunities to be with your grandkids translates into them becoming the next stewards of our planet. So Kay, that example is extraordinary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's super inspiring, and you know, you provide such a great platform for this, and you're already at it for next year.
Oh yeah, we're at it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, maybe even full or getting full on
We're
some
totally
rides.
full. We're totally full. Trying to add more. Our Glacier events are full. There are wait lists. And the one thing I do want to say is we do offer multiple options each day. You know, these are definitely meant to be a challenge. They're meant to push you, right? But, you know, a hiking trip for 4 days is tough work. And by day 3, you may want to take that 5-mile option versus a 12-mile option. So we're there to support you in every step of the way. And particularly generations and younger people and older people, I've got to say, a lot of the older people, quite honestly, kick the asses of the younger people.
What about
Doug?
the 9-year-old that did it?
The 9-year-old? Which 9-year-old? Oh, Marin. Well, she's a local kid. So we make her hike up big mountains all the time. So anyway, we're just here to support everyone and support the Conservancy and have a good time while we do it.
Yeah, no, it's hard not to have a good time in Glacier National Park, that's for sure. Now, Kay and Olivia, you guys also, it wasn't like you were living in 5-star accommodations. You were kind of, Kay, you drove out in your van, right?
That's right. I have a Volkswagen Euro van, and
Of course you do.
yes, of course. There's no better way to travel. So we drove out and were able to stay in the van and have a softer bed than I think the people who stayed in the tents had. So fortunately, Climate Ride was able to work with me so that I could do that, and it worked well.
so it again, Olivia, it speaks to a different generation, right? This whole idea of a Euro van. We're not, it's not the new Mercedes, big fancy big ones, but for people in your grandma's and my generation, the Volkswagen van is kind of an icon. But this, to Kaylee's point, this mixing of generational experience, right, is really interesting. That do you have a phone yet, Olivia?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so what was your first phone?
My first phone was my mom's old phone. Well, technically it's the iPad, but that doesn't count as a phone.
So Kay, what was your first phone?
Oh, I had a big one. I don't know, with the
Well, for our generation, right, we had a dial phone. I'm not sure if we gave, right, in Europe, you know how to operate kind of phone systems.
right. I thought you meant cell phone type.
Modern phone, right?
No, actually the first phone that I had in my house was a dial phone, and we had a party line. So there were about 4 people who shared, and you'd pick up the phone to make a call, and it could be that somebody else was talking because they were busy and you had to wait until they got off the phone. So you learn some manners about not having long conversations.
And Kaylee mentioned a little bit, and it was covered a bit in the Interlake article too, Kay, about kind of your kind of growing up and being part of a railroad family here in the area. Talk us through a little bit about how that impacted you and got you started in this kind of passion for the park.
Well, first of all, you have to go back to what life was like 100 years ago. And women were not encouraged to do outdoor kinds of things. And I remember sitting at the dining room table with a map of Glacier Park in front of me after having read the book Heidi, about a young girl in the Swiss Alps and talking about glaciers. And I'm looking at this map and I see that there's a place called Sperry Glacier, and it looks like there's a trail that goes up there. And I turned to my dad and I said, can we go there? And he shakes his head and says, oh, well, girls don't do that. So it took probably another 50 years before I finally made it up that trail to Sperry Glacier. And I think, that it wasn't so much the railroad town, it was just the generational differences of that period of time. And now women are given so many more opportunities. And hopefully those will not be limited, and we'll be able to continue to expand what it is that women are considered capable of accomplishing.
Yeah, I think I think it was Wallace Stegner who wrote that our national parks are America's best idea, but in part because they are really the true representation of democracy. They're where everything is equal. And I think that's a powerful statement. But as I watch your body language, and we had a guest at our book club the other day, a woman named Carolyn Finney, who writes about the challenges in race related to accessing the park, that is still aspirational for us. And I think the fact that you bring your granddaughter is really the salve to that, to empower people like Olivia to feel like anything's possible.
Yeah.
So I think that's incredible. And speaking of anything being possible, Olivia, I know you're only 11, but you pretty much are 20 as well. So what do you have planned? What's what does your future look like? You going to be the president or a doctor or postman?
President. That I could never be the president. I don't think. I mean, I'd love to rule over an entire country, but
Oh.
I mean, I think it's probably going to be somebody who makes videos on the internet who can also cook, and probably maybe like a cook at a restaurant, and somebody who makes YouTube videos, because that's what I want to do right now.
So tell us, so I assume that means you watch some of these things. Are there kind of cooking shows that to which you would recommend us, or blogs or things like that? We need some knowledge here, Olivia.
Something that I watch anytime I'm over, or something that I want to watch anytime I'm over at my other grandma's house.
Are you seeing your friend Marin here?
No,
Can you see her?
no.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna have to fix that. She has okay. Oh boy. It's funny.
Hand away from me.
No. I definitely don't have my hand away from my mouth right now. Just totally not away from my mouth. I would just
So
anything.
you're recommending me things to watch.
Yeah. Something that I usually, well, really any cooking show, but mainly what was Chopped.
Oh, big fan.
Yeah.
So how about the Great British Baking Show? You don't know this? Okay, well, we'll be in touch. It's very important. It's interesting. I think it's a great thing, because that was what you're talking about wasn't a thing even 10 or 15 years ago, right now. And so your generation is bringing in this ability for us to find out every day whether it's a Bones Day or not a Bones Day, based upon whether Noodles the dog stands up or not on TikTok. And we actually have certain presenters of ours in the Native America Speaks program, one in particular, Mariah Gladstone, who has a blog called Indigikitchen. Kitchen. And it's exactly kind of what you're talking about. She's a younger person, and she blogs about cooking. And in her case, it's really about the idea of using indigenous products in cooking. So that's really interesting that you're taking kind of old school traditional things like cooking and then applying this new technology through YouTube and the internet. Is that something you see a lot among your peer group at school?
I mean, Google is kind of the main thing. Everybody in middle school uses. Search up stuff on Google and you most likely get a correct answer. I'm not saying that you will, but you most likely will. Especially when talking about like games and stuff. Those are the things that Google helps out for. But yeah.
So speaking of games and such, we promised that we were going to give away some prizes tonight, and I think, Jill, you might have some names from Grace.
I do, yes. And Grace so we have 3 buffs to give away. They have our logo on them, and they have like a little like our little goat cartoon graphic on them. So very fitting for our goats who are at the event tonight. And Grace has one. I can't see her. Okay, I can see her now, and she's modeling the buff.
Yeah, I'll come off mute. Maybe that'll be better.
There we go. So
I don't know, maybe I'll have to put it on.
yes, model it fully for us, all the ways you can wear it. So yeah, we have 3 of these to give away. I have all the 3 names. Just pulling them up here. So our first winner is Lisbeth Jones. Congratulations, Lisbeth. You're getting a buff. Our second winner, should I just do all 3? We're gonna do all 3 right now?
We're gonna do all 3.
Okay. Our second winner is David Simmons. Congratulations, David. And third and final, last but not least, is Vicky Holsha. I hope I'm saying that correctly, Vicky. Congratulations. So those are our buff winners.
That's
Yes.
great. And I think both Olivia and Kay have buffs as well, although I now know that it's not Olivia's favorite thing because you don't like things over your head like a headband. So we may have to replace that with something more appropriate. So what's next for you two kids?
Well, winter is coming. I mean, snow is coming, and so it means skiing. And Olivia does lots of skiing at Mission Ridge, and I've got my ski pass on Big Mountain, and plan to be there. And
So
skiing.
boarding or skiing, Olivia?
Skiing because it's more comfortable for me. We just got new skis and new ski boots. My mom bought like new ski boots, and they're not shiny, so they're matte, like a matte finish.
Yeah.
I want to show something that I made.
And Kay, I think we may have opening day on tomorrow, maybe at Big Mountain. So
Yeah,
it is snowing to beat the band currently.
With my dad, I made this bird thing, and I really like it because its wings move like a bird.
That is very
The
cool.
gears, if my hand would get out of the way, you spin the gears, and it's a bird.
That is awesome.
It's just a bunch of cardboard and paper and plastic gears.
That is very cool. So skiing in the winter, and then are there any plans for a redux of something like the Glacier, whether not in Glacier? Do you have any ideas about what might be next for you two as far as a road trip goes?
No, not really. There are too many things that are up in the air of possibilities. Trying to get Olivia's schedule and mine coordinated. So we haven't reached a point where we're consider things really safe to be traveling yet. So that will be a factor for us. We're being pretty cautious about the COVID issues. And so I'd like to take her to Yellowstone and then go up to Glacier, but
Yeah, no, we hear you. We're all gathered on Zoom, which we've all become quite accustomed to. And in one way, it's been terrific because we've been able to join together people who couldn't be in a room together because we're just in disparate places around the country. And at the same time, we're all very anxious to be able to be together again. Hopefully next year, if we can, I didn't know that I was going to be wishing people 2 years in a row, years of healing and renewal. But, again, I think we all hope for that and hope for the ability to return to being able to do things in person and be able to learn, as Olivia is teaching us, that we shouldn't turn our back on technology either, that technology has a power to bring us together when it's used appropriately, to be able to extend our reach, right? It's a little bit like an accessible trail, that there are people who may live in Virginia and may not be able to travel, but would really like to be in community with you. So I think that we can learn a lot about and innovate about how we do these things together. And none of us really knew how to do Zoom two years ago, and now we, just send me the link and I'll be on. So yeah, it's really excellent. Well, I know that you've been super generous with your time tonight. I want to thank you and thank everybody for joining us tonight. The inspiration that you two provide is really rather remarkable. I'm glad that Kaylee used the word ass first, because I just really want to say that your grandma is a badass. That just is the way it is. And if I had a shirt that said that, I would send it to you. And I really feel like I have new friends, and I feel inspired to think about how I can create being in community with people I love as much as you two people obviously love each other. So thank you for also an incredible contribution. It's no small thing to ask people to support you financially in what you're doing. To raise $8,000+ is no easy task, and the courage and commitment you both put in to do that is really incredible. So thank you from the bottom of our heart for the relationship that you've shared and showed us, for the courage and commitment that you've shared and shown us, for the adventure that you challenge us to come to together, and for the love you have for our park. So thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you for what you do. I appreciate what you're doing.
So the other thing, I'll just tell you, Olivia, I'm not going to have this job forever, and we need people like you.
I don't know if I'm the right candidate, but okay.
You'll take it under advisement. There you go. All right. Well, you now have a broad national base of Glacier fans and of Glacier family. So please know that you're always welcome in our homes and in our communities. And thank you so much for being with us tonight. And thank all of you for joining in another terrific Glacier Conversation. We've got a book club next week, the Salish and Kootenai and the Lewis and Clark Expedition. Amazing book, edited by one of our board members, Jermaine White. And so we'll be sharing some time with them, and Glacier Book Club will be back again in 2022. Exciting group of books for next year, and these conversations will continue, whether they're in person or online or hybrid. We will continue to be in community with each other. Thank you all, and I hope everybody has a safe and happy holiday season that's filled with joy and hope. And as I said earlier, a new year that is brimming with healing and restoration for all of us in our world. So thanks again, and good night, everybody.
Good night. Peace.
Thanks, everyone.